I want to talk about what RG3 said about Trey Lance, because RG3 is a very interesting analyst, considering, in terms of what he has to say about the Shanahans, because they had a famous falling out. And in a lot of ways, RG3 might hold some things against him, like, dude, you ruined my career. But he doesn't seem to hold a grudge when he talks about Kyle. He seems like he has some admiration for him, and he was very eloquent in explaining why Trey Lance is exactly the quarterback that Kyle Shanahan needs. Would you explain this to the viewers, what he said?
Yeah, essentially he was saying that it's all great when you call a play up and it's executed that way and it's awesome. But what about the times where maybe the defense calls a great play against whatever you schemed up offensively? Do you have a player that can bail you out in those type of situations? And he felt like the more talented quarterback on the 49ers was Trey Lance, as opposed to, Jimmy Garoppolo. And he brings a different element and a different dynamic that can really help Kyle Shanahan get over the hump. But he also kind of alluded to, again, the conservative nature of Kyle Shanahan, and said something very, very intriguing that I think we kind of know. But he said Kyle Shanahan, and this is RG3's words, says he's a control freak.
Oh, no doubt.
He said he's a control freak, and he wants things done a very, very, very specific way. And I think you talked about Andy Reid.
Yeah.
I think when you have a quarterback that is a playmaker, you kind of have to let him do his thing.
Yeah.
And if you're a coach that can't, it was like, well, okay, RG3, you had this 76-yard touchdown run, but you didn't throw this 10-yard out. And he's drilling them because I get it, the 10-yard out is going to be more consistent than the 76-yard touchdown run. But when you have a guy that brings that dynamic, you kind of got to let him do his thing and make his plays. Andy Reid has done an amazing job of allowing Patrick Mahomes to be that guy. Mahomes isn't perfect. Mahomes threw in 1 year like 20 interceptable passes. He will randomly miss passes. I was watching him on a game on television. It was a primetime game. He threw a fourth down ball into the ground. We saw him run around in the AFC Championship game and do some weird stuff. But we also know the big time ability that he brings that even gets them to that point. A lot of why the Chiefs will consistently be in the mix is because of their quarterback. And I would go even a step further. It's because of Andy Reid and his willingness to say, you know what, I'm going to let this guy do him. And can Kyle Shanahan get over himself and how he's been and say, you know what, this guy is not Jimmy Garoppolo. This guy is not going to drop back and just get the ball out right now. I like those things in my offense, but I have to let a guy do what we saw from Trey Lance, right? Against the Houston Texans, ball backed up against the goal line, got double slants on coming from the left. He could throw it. Jimmy would have threw it. Yeah. And he said, you know what, not going to throw it. I don't feel comfortable throwing that. Moves around, rolls out to the right, hits Brandon Ayuk for a first down. You don't want him to make a living off of that, but you also have to encourage him to be that guy so that he doesn't tense up and play tight. And until that happens, you're going to see Trey Lance. Maybe that's why some of the balls are a little wobbly. He's probably playing tight because dang, I got this control freak behind me.
Also, Mike Silver and Colin Cowherd said that, Jimmy's more willing to throw the balls into tight spaces than Trey, and that's why Jimmy's a better fit with the 49ers. No. Jimmy has to throw the ball into tight spaces because he constricts the field. He won't throw outside the numbers. He won't throw deep. What Trey's going to do is spread out the defense. You have to account for every inch of the field, and so he's not going to have to throw into tight spaces as much. That's why he didn't throw picks in college. It's like you're going to knock him for not being reckless. I don't like that about Jimmy Garoppolo's game. He's reckless. He forces passes. He doesn't read defenses. He predetermines throws. Lance is going to protect the ball. And if he throws less balls into traffic, good. I don't understand that at all.
Well, Chris Sims talked about that, right? Chris Sims said, man, and this was after the Texans game. Chris Sims had been someone who, I don't want to say was critical of Trey Lance, but he had his analysis of where Trey Lance was coming out of college, and he didn't care for it as much. He watched him against Houston Texans and said, I probably will go with the kid week 18 because he makes your offense more dangerous and less risky. And he's like, you're kind of holding on to your seat while watching Jimmy play because while Jimmy does throw a lot of tight window throws, and that is really good, it's also, you have very small window for error. I did this fake quarterback pro day. My guy Greg Pinelli, he's a quarterback coach. He put on a pro day for this quarterback at University of Kentucky. And coming back through, we trained some kids and whatnot. And then I always tell him, hey, man, I can throw the ball around. So he puts me through this little pro day. And one thing I noticed, man, when you're throwing over the middle, it is tough. Because if you miss by a little bit, you're leading the receiver. Now a ball can potentially get tipped, go off your hands. You can overthrow a guy. And I don't have a safety out there because I'm throwing routes on the air. But if I barely overthrow a guy because he's moving across and it's a little off, well, that's an interception. And if you watch Jimmy Garoppolo, very interesting. The way he wins and what makes him great as in the college offense are the same things that makes you pull your hair out, because if he misses a little bit, it can be a very bad play. And he does, you talked about earlier, he kind of constricts the offense. And he's very good in a certain area. Well, Trey Lance, I don't have to be great over the middle, and I can throw those passes sometimes. We saw him throw that, a couple of really tight window slants. Matter of fact, we've seen it from Trey Lance. Preseason against the Chargers. What did he do? He missed on one, a little out in front, went off his Sanu's hands, got intercepted. But we also saw him come back throwing at Travis Benjamin. Boom. Timing, rhythm, over the middle, tight throw, perfect spiral, touchdown. Threw another touchdown over the middle on the little spot route to Sanu for a touchdown in that Chargers game. We saw him against the Houston Texans. Throw the slant to Brandon Ayuk. Boom, hit him in stride. Nice catch and run. So he has it. He just doesn't have to make a living there, where Jimmy Garoppolo, is not his strength throwing outside the numbers.
Coming back to what RG3 said, he basically said it's a big step for Kyle. This is growth for him to acknowledge that he needs this kind of quarterback, and I agree. I feel like it's something in the family, because if you think about Mike has 3 rings. 1 as a coordinator, 2 as a head coach, with Steve Young and John Elway. This guy should understand the importance of an elite quarterback, but he's not in the Hall of Fame, and I think he feels that he never got credit for those championships because he had the quarterback. So I think the rest of his career he spent with mid quarterbacks like Brian Griese and Jake Plummer trying to prove that his scheme was the reason, and he couldn't prove it. And I think Kyle fell in the same thing. He always had a quarterback that he could take credit for. Jimmy had a good game. No, Kyle had a good game. Kyle set him up. But with Trey and quarterbacks like that, a lot of times you just have to be like, hey, man, dude made a play. I drew up something. It didn't work. He made something out of nothing. What Kyle needs to understand is, man, you picked this guy. You developed him. Whatever Trey does, you get credit for. So maybe I think RG3 is right. I think this is a big step for him.
Yeah, huge step. And again, you can't be as controlling. I see someone in the comments say, man, y'all are thinking too highly of Trey Lance. And it's not so much thinking too highly of Trey Lance. It's just more so, one, we know the potential. How do we get him to reach his full potential? And I think it is Kyle Shanahan. Obviously, drill him. Be hard on him.
Yeah.
But also allow him to do the things that made him successful in college. I get it. FCS level. But we're talking about a guy who completed 67% of his passes, 28 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, passing, another 15 touchdowns rushing, whatever. He played very well. Let him be free and be that guy throwing the ball. And I think you'll start to see the best version of him, as opposed to someone who's playing tight, because Kyle is like, no, do this, do that. Jake Plummer said it. Remember, he was like, man, I never felt, he said he felt, this is Jake Plummer's quote on Mike Shanahan, he never felt good enough. Nothing he did was good enough for Mike Shanahan. And that's tough, man. It's tough to play quarterback that way.
The last thing RG3 said that I thought was interesting, he's so perceptive. He's like, look, Trey Lance is going to be able to run the offense I ran with Kyle and the offense Jimmy ran with Kyle. And I think that's probably the main reason Kyle watered him. I think theoretically, if Lance works out, he can sort of be the bridge between these 2 different offenses that Kyle created. The offense for the stationary quarterback and the offense for the spread zone read quarterback. And theoretically, he can do both. He can do the Matt Ryan stuff, the play action downfield stuff. He can do the zone read. And wow, if he can do it all at an above average level, you can't stop that offense. It's too much. Theoretically, it's too much.
Right.